Yellow, hi. I gave my own fucking self whiplash. Cause holy shit, that's a lot of things. That was a lot of music. Alright. Welcome! Why are you playing Deltarune? Because I wanted to play it. And I did not have the motivation to go into my game files and try to hunt down Undertale. You can delete the entire game and it like doesn't fucking kill you. I didn't have the patience for that.
Legend of Hope, it was a legend of dreams. It was a legend of light. It was a legend of darkness. This is a legend of Deltarune.
Also, I do not have the motivation to fuck on my voice trying to do Papyrus and Alphys' voice. Hi, Tubbs.
Bringing peace to the world. But this harmony with the shutter. A terrible calamity would occur.
I roll
Hi, friend.
with a crew of problematic bachelors, and we call ourselves the Squad.
I don't stream for a couple days and I forget to what the fuck the game is. Hi.
Very pleased. Welcome to the Bat family. How are you? How's your night?
Damn, I'm gonna yell at my mods.
By your side, through the dark parade, and together here, inside the rain.
I know I skipped an entire thing, but I played this well enough. I love and hate my moderators. Ooh. 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 Let's just do a new save file. Let me just completely take up my entire save file. Are you there? No, I'm not here. I'm in another plane of existence. Are we connected? No. No the fuck we ain't. I am just a glitch in the system. How the fuck did you find me? Well, shit. Truly. Excellent. Listen, I'm a mediocre piece of shit at best. Why are we here? If anyone's gonna insult me, it's gonna be my damn self. We may. I don't want to be here no more. We may begin. What if I just leave? I forgot about this. Quest. Must create a vessel. Ah, fun! Also, unironically, very funny. I forgot her name, but Soul? My character looks so much fucking like the new protagonist for Hades 2. It's so funny. Because we were looked at it and Soul just goes, oh shit, she has a skeleton hand that is almost the same color. And I went, what? She went, that was unintentional. I wasn't even paying attention. Yes. We gotta go with Hoodie. Select the legs. Can I get the really skinny one? That looks good. I have a headache now. You accept it? As long as it doesn't give me gender envy, I'm fine. What did I do? What the fuck am I on? Now. Let's shape its mind. Oh, it's gonna become very mentally ill then. If I have to shape its mind, it's gonna go into a deep depression. What is your favorite food? Pain. I'm kidding. I swear to God I'm normal. To all the new people who follow me, I swear to God I'm okay. It's just, I think our infected water fucked me up. Sour. Your favorite blood type? A, B. Don't question the blood type, because my blood type, what color? Green. Does it like the most green?
Please give it a gift. Voice, bravery, ambition, mind, kindness.
Let's go with mind.
Do you feel by your creation it will not hear? Hope.
Have you answered honestly? Maybe. You acknowledge possibility of pain and seizure? Yes.
Understood. Name your vessel.
What happens if I name it Chris? Does that do anything? My brain has a stroke trying to find K. This is just gonna be the fucking around and finding out file. Chris. Oh, fuck. An interesting coincidence. And what about the creator? I'm pretty sure the original save file for this is actually still named Eren or Venus. Oh god. I'm gonna go look back. Eren. Truly excellent. Okay, we have the confirmation. Eren, hello. Thank you. Oh, well. Your time. Your answers. Your wonderful creation will now be discarded. No one can choose who they are in this world. Your name is... Oh. Chris. Oh, so it's just a lovely little, you've played this game before, you cunt. Here you go.
Chris. Chris. If you don't wake up, we'll be late for school.
Toriel gets a different voice every time I play this fucking game.
I will wait outside for you, alright?
Ah yes, wake the fuck up, welcome to the wonderful world, I'm now in control of you, have fun.
Close door.
This is your bed. If you go back to sleep, you may miss a lot of important things. You go back to bed. You can sleep in class. Hey. It's a red wagon with a rusty bird cage on it. Looks like it's seen quite a few crashes. A CD under the bed, classical, jazz, religious. This game console is one normal controller and one knockoff one. It's a beautiful day outside. The birds are singing, the flowers are blooming, and kids like you should be burning in hell. It's a computer desk. There are many boxes and they're filled with old books. The door is locked. It's only you. I still want to... That's like one of the tattoos I want in the future. It's like the, despite everything, it's still you tattoo. There are crowns in the drawer. Their labels have long faded and there's no green. I'm gonna piss some people off by how I pronounce that. Ho-ho. Hee-hee. On the shower ledge, there's a small container of apple-scented shampoo and a gallon-sized container of pet shampoo. It's a toilet. Flush it. You flushed the toilet. The way Chris turned around. Look inside the sink cupboard. There's a can of icy cool boys body spray. Spray for the boys, flaming hot pizza flavor. It seems almost entirely full. Love this game. There's a photo on the fridge. It's of you, your mother, and your brother. I guess we are absolutely not a child of divorce. Not at all. There's a cinnamony batter cake on the stovetop. I will fucking eat that. There's some white fur stuck in the drain. Love that. Cookie cutter for gingerbread monsters, gingerbread humans. There's a land phone, but you already have a cell phone. So it's C? Haha! Oh. The phone is ringing, but you can't get it. You're already on the phone after all. It's a TV. Doesn't seem to even plugged in anymore. It's a book of hymns. Oh god, we're religious.
Chris, there you are. You still might be able to make it. Chris, it's a beautiful day today, is it not? I hope it stays this way when Azrael visits next week. But I wonder, after the excitement of university, will he still enjoy coming home to this little town?
No, I don't want to be here no more. I don't want to be in class. So does everyone have a... Oh, Chris, you thought you weren't coming today. We're doing a group project this month. There it is. So walk around and find a partner, okay? There it is. I got the Alfie's voice back. You just have to go to the slight comparison nasally. Yes, that fucks up my voice and I hate it. Chris! I'm sorry, Timmy already has a partner. Is that a hard-boiled... Is it a hard-boiled egg? It's a black and white hard-boiled egg. Sadly, seems like it already has a partner.
Yo, Chris, show up early next time. End up having a partner with Snowy.
Helly keeps trying to me and says, "Howdy, partner," like a cowboy.
Partner? I hardly know her. What do you think of that one? Funny, right? No? Well, I got news for you, pal. I already got a partner. Scram. Chris!
The Jackington and Caddy are always partners. We're the ultimate Ackerman ever since our first gym clip. It was a hoop day. They ran out of hoops for us. So she used me instead. That's our original story. That's the origin story. Click, 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 tap, tap, tap. Taken. Understandable. Hey. Ah, Chris, late again, I see you. You need a partner. Sorry, I'm already partners with the second smartest student. Though, wait, Chris, now that I think about it, your unique skill set might help a lot on this assignment. Not. I actually want to get an A.
Hey Chris, what's up? Did you lose your pencil again? Here. You want the candy cane one or the one with lights on it? Huh? You want to be partners? Sorry, Brittany already asked me. But I could ask Mr. Alfies if you become a 3. I'll see if you want. Okay, I'll ask. Miss Alfies, is it okay if you become a 3?
Hey, what? No. I did not approve this. Abort.
What? But Chris doesn't have a...
Noelle, what were you saying? She was saying we're fine being alone. Damn it, it's gonna have fucking a million voices.
Actually, I wanted to know if...
Noelle, can you please speak up? Oh, it's the lesbian.
Hi, Susie. It's the...
Am I late? No, you're fine. We're just, choosing partners for the next group project, and, Susie, you're with Chris. Great. And now that everyone's here, I'll write the assignment. I don't want to be here. Has anyone seen the chalk? This is the 3rd time it's gone missing, and you all know I can't start class without some. How about this? If no one speaks up, everyone gets in trouble. And anyone, please?
Hey, there might be a box in the supply closet.
It's obvious. Why not Susie and I? Good idea, Noelle.
Susie, since you came at last, why don't you go get it for me? Whatever. Chris, can you go with her and make sure she, actually gets it and, stays out of trouble? Thanks, Chris. See you later. I don't want to be here no more.
Oh, that was almost bad.
Don't worry, Chris. I've always thought Susie can't be so bad, you know? I'm sure everything will turn out fine.
That's because you're gay. Why am I feral?
Chris. Didn't see you there. Hey. You didn't see anything now, did you? Just now, did you? You can't even say. Chris. Hey. Let me tell you a secret. Quiet people piss me off. You think just because you don't say anything, I can't tell exactly what you're thinking. It's over. I caught Susie eating all the chalk. This is her last chance now. She'll finally be expelled. Come on, Chris. Don't act so shocked. You know it's true. Everyone's waiting for it. Everyone wants it. So, congrats, Chris. You got me. I'm done for. Just let me say one little thing. Seems like a waste to expel just for having a smoke. So, Chris, if you know I know you're gonna pull the trigger. Why don't I just get expelled for some real carnage? Chris, how do you feel about losing your face? No? Chris, you got a good mother. It'd be a shame to make her bury her child. Alright, let's get this over with. We'll get more chalk, mosey back to class, and then Chris, you'll do our project. How's that sound? Don't bother answering. If you haven't gotten it by now, your choices don't matter.
Well, shit.
Let's go, freak.
Psych, Chris. What? Realize the baby classroom is better fit for you? Hey, actually, I should come with you. Maybe I'll find a better partner in there. Nah, actually, let's not. Wrong way, Chris. Wrong way, Chris. Damn it. Chris, you just want to skip school. When am I supposed to snitch on you? That'd be rich. Nah, I want to get back. Good. Can you walk any slower or what? Now I get it. Not used to walking around without someone holding your hand. Come on, freak. Damn. I forgot how much he was a bitch.
Well, here's the closet. Too bad. We were just starting to have fun. Hey, Chris, is it me or is it really dark in there? What's the holdup, Chris? Are you gonna go in or what?
Nah.
Fine. If you're gonna be a wimp, then I will. We'll both go in at the same time. See? Why are you so scared? There's nothing in here but old papers. Let's try it. Try to find a way.
That's weird. I can't find a switch. Guess it's further in.
Kind of big for a closet, don't you think?
You think we would have reached the end by now? Chris, if you leave me in here, I will... Hey, Chris. I think this closet's, broken. Without any walls. Well, we worked hard enough. Bobby's once she talks about she'll get it. She can get it herself. Let's split. What? Wait, what the? Hey, this isn't funny. Let us out. Let us. The floor, it's... The way Chris just fucking accepts it and it's just like, flop. Fuck yeah. At times, you see it flickering, the light only you can see. By second nature, you reach out and... Sorry, Chris. Saw you. There's something glowing inside. Take it? Yes. Got a glow shad. You got the glow shad. It's too dark to see anything. You bathe your body in light. A power shines within you, breaking through the darkness. Any pain you may have melted away. Full HP restored. In this land, only eyes blinded by darkness can see the way. I love how easy that puzzle is. It's too dark to see anything. What the fuck happened to you? Hey, friend. Susie. Hey, back off. Come any closer now. Chris? You. Hey, don't scare me like that, Dennis. Unless you want to get clocked in the face. Anyways, enough's going around. You gotta find a way out of here. Where is here, anyways? It doesn't matter. You got us into this mess. You can get us out. Lead the way, Chris. Wait, you want to make it a race? Chris, there's someone up there waving at us. Any ideas what they want? Death! Run. Gotta be honest, that should have hit me. Chris, down here. I suspect that Susie's getting a different voice pitch every fucking time I speak. Sitting cap locks instead. Oh, you're not that sweet. Got any ideas what the heck this place is? Me neither. Wonder if there's anyone in that building there. Damn it, she walks away there. It looks like a shop, but the door is locked and no one's inside. It's locked. It's locked. In front of you, a castle beneath the empty town. A black geyser emerges from the piercing endlet. No strange the darkness, the power of this place shines within you. The castle? Where the hell is there a castle inside a supply closet? Look, come hear us. Who's there? Do not be alarmed. I am not your enemy. Please, come forward, both of you. Welcome. I am the prince of this kingdom. The kingdom of darkness. Chris, Susie, there's a legend in this land. A legend that one day 2 heroes of light will arrive and fulfill the ancient prophecy foretold by time and space. Please, heroes, listen to my tale. I got to. He's the favorite. He got favoritism. Very well then. Once upon a time, a legend was whispered among shadows. It was a legend of hopes. It was a legend of dreams. It was a legend of light. It was a legend of darkness. This is a legend of Deltarune. For millennia, light and darkness have lived in balance, bringing peace to the world. But if this harmony were to shatter, a terrible calamity would occur. The sky will run black with terror, and the land will be cracked with fear. And hear her heart pounding. The earth will draw her final breath. Then, shining with hope, three heroes appeared at the world's edge. A human, a monster, and a prince. Tell me why he doesn't look like any of anything. Only they can seal the fountains. And banish the angels' heaven. Only then will the balance be restored. And the world saved from destruction. Wake up at the side. Today the fountain of darkness. The geyser that gives this land foam stands tall at the center of the kingdom. But recently another fountain has appeared on the horizon. And with it, the balance of light and dark begins to shift. Chris, Susie, thank you for listening to my long tale. I deeply believe that you are the heroes of the legend, that despite whatever enemies you may face, you two have the courage to save the world. Delta Warriors, please, would you accept your destiny? Hi, VR! Lock him in. Nah. What? Me? Some kind of hero or something? You've got the wrong person. Susie, without you, the world, well... So what if the world gets destroyed? Hello? Welcome to Deltarune, because I crave nostalgia. Even though there was a literal another game I've not played I could have played. It's none of my damn business. Might even be kind of fun, honestly. Anyways, Chris, you want to play pretend with this weirdo? Stick around. I'm gonna go find a way out of here. Susie waits. So shit, I know it's late. I'm trying to sleep and it works, so yeah, your life. So now I'm here. Oh, great. Oh! The hero's already running away. And they didn't even know I was here. My dad's gonna make me son of the month.
Hi. You clowns want to steal our dark fun, huh? And still, picturing you as clowns. Save the world from eternal darkness, huh? Don't try to deny it. We both know you'll go east. It's the only way home. But Lancer, won't let you go there.
I wasn't gonna even judge you for being awake.
And I got the fun list 2 sub-plan to ensure it. Step 1. I thrashed you. Step 2. You lose.
Nice plan, kid.
Really?
Yeah, actually. Mind if we use it on you instead? You can tell Lancer to watch out for Susie attacks. He readies himself.
All the clowns suspect is fueled by victory.
What the fuck? Not next, but that's kind of cool. Tell Lancer you can tell the difference between his clothes and his body. He seems flattered. Please go to sleep.
You make me...
Oh, I was about to say something, but nope. Compliment. You tried to compliment Lancer again, but he seems unsure into his attack powers. Gone back up. Oh. You not realize I can... Laughed at your idea would need your help. I'm the bad guy!
Wait a second. My bag's running out of fuel.
Alright, you punkaroos. You had the luck of the draw this time, but next time the losers will be you!
Bye, losers! I gotta go home for dinner.
Are you two okay? Allow me to introduce myself more properly. I am... Jeez, can you take off that hood? I can barely hear you under there. Alright. Best boy who I don't trust! Listen, Azrael is best boy, but do I trust him for shit? No. I'm gonna piss off a lot of people with that comment. But listen, I have developed trust issues with Azrael. I love him to death. And I am this man to like a certain extent in the friend group of the Smoke Trio. That doesn't mean shit. Hello. I am Azrael. Chris, Susie. It's ever so wonderful to meet you. I'm certain we're going to become great friends and... Best way to leave is east, right? Yes. That's where we'll... Got it. See you at the school, Chris. I suppose it's just the 2 of us then. Chris, I am a prince, but I currently don't have any subjects. I've been waiting alone here my whole life for you two to arrive, so I'm really happy to meet you. I hope we can be good friends, Chris. Let's try to find Susie. She must be at the southeast. You can lead the way, Chris. Azrael, the lonely prince, is now your ally. The power of fluffy boys shines within you. Forgot about that! Oh, Chris, it's the training dummy I made. Now seems like a great chance to prepare for the enemy. Would you like me to teach you how to fight? Yes, because it gives me the best fucking interactions. Okay, give it to Chris. See that heart, Chris? That's your soul. The culmination of your being. Within it holds your will, your compassion, and the fate of the world. If it gets hit, you and your friends will lose HP. If anyone HP reaches 0, will lose the battle. Which I've not done, surprisingly. I've never had them drop to 0 hit points, all of them. That's gonna happen this fucking run through, I'm gonna call it. So please, take care to avoid the enemy's attacks. Ready? Let's try dodging. Great job, Chris. You're natural. Anyways, after the enemy's attack, it is our turn. First, I'll teach you how to fight.
that fighting is unnecessary in the world. There's no harm in the thorough lesson. Let's try fighting. Well, Chris, that was an amazing attack. Have you done this before or something?
No.
Okay, next, let's try defending. Simple. An enemy's attack will hurt less. Not only that, but you'll gather TP. Actually, orange thing on the left, I'll explain it next. Great. Chris, now that you've gathered TP, how about spending TP on one of my spells? Because you get hit the enemy enough, it got tired. Now, I use my pacifist spell on it. It will fall asleep, and you will run peacefully. As real Chris. Great, Chris. You have won the battle by now. Now I have just a little more to teach you. Acting. Through this, even the most violent enemies can be defeated through vigorous acts of kindness. Chris, though it might just be a dummy, why not give it a hug? You hug Asper. Okay.
A fucking blush.
Chris. I don't think, this is what you're supposed to do. But...
You hug the dummy.
Aw, that's great, Chris.
Can you tell he's my favorite?
Each enemy has a different attack. Attacks? Acts that will satisfy them. When an enemy is satisfied, the same will turn the other. When that happens, you can defeat it by sparing it. If you spare all the enemies we meet, we'll never have to fight.
I don't think I can ever do a genocide route on this game.
Chris, bad dummy. Good job, Chris. Now it's the end. Now that would be the end in a real battle. I'm really happy you have the chance to teach you, Chris.
You won. 0 XP and $1. $1.
Oh, that was fun. You're a wonderful student, Chris. And in case you ever need a refresher, I wrote a manual for you and Susie. Please you'd open your menu and use it to your items. You got the manual.
Why does he have a kindness bar? That's actually kind of funny. Oh.
Oh, the great door's opened. No wonder Lenza was able to come through. Chris, once you pass through this door, our adventure will finally begin. Really begin. A journey foretold exactly by the prophecy. But Chris, I believe your choices are important too. This world is full of all kinds of peoples, Chris. In the end, how we treat them all makes a difference. So let's try our best to get by without fighting. If we can manage to do that, I believe this tale may have a happy ending. Otherwise, I fear that we may not find the results favorable. Oh, I'm sorry, is that too much to ask? I can handle it. Chris, I knew you were here the moment I saw you. Let's try our best, alright?
Man really said nah.
The door closed behind you, your adventure will truly begin. The power of adventure shines within you. Enemies ahead. You're going to die, sighed Lancer.
Damn it.
Ribbon to quit fighting. It was utterly swayed. I guess that makes sense.
If you cannot tell, I was thoroughly vibing. Because this is one of my favorite songs on the soundtrack.
You won. You got 0 experience.
If you're reading this, I guess you're dead. Signed, Mensa.
Right, so I'll get my freedom before morning light.
Hey, don't read the sign. It's a work in progress. Oh, if it isn't my 2 favorite people. It's like you guys aren't even in my top 5.
Lancer, where is Susie?
You mean the purple guy? Oh, home! You fools! You're too late to stop me!
What did you do?
Haha, it was so simple! She beat me up, so I ran away.
That's a bit anticlimactic.
Don't contain an item that can heal you. Whatever you do, don't check the tree and use C to open your menu. You got it? Sign, answer.
There's 2 objects hanging from the tree. Take one. We got dog candy.
There's 1 candy. Easy.
All the stories are true. You'll be sorry after back. I'm glad to be here. Here's the me.
Hey, if you head that way, my troops will thrash you.
Is that a threat?
I prefer to think of it as an invitation. Oh, let's go!
Told Ruben to stop fighting. It was utterly swayed.
Shit.
It's bad. Well, I guess that makes sense. He's bad. You won.
Oh, shit. Mamma mia, my top cake, my latest cake worked me to exhaustion, so I took a little nap, but mamma mia, a scary noise woke me up. A beast was nudged on the table, eating the cake like an animal. I spritzed it with water and it hissed and ran off. Is Susie a cat? My wonderful cake is...
Oh, Chris, that sounds like Susie. You must be on the right way. Just try to keep her out of any more trouble.
I know! Listen, the only people I've ever actually given, like, proper fucking voices is Alphys and Virus, because they're always fucking easy. The rating of the cake is still smothering. Take a piece. Broken cake was added to your key items. I didn't do that in the last run I did of this. Hey, friend. Let's go.
Quit fighting. It was utterly swayed. You ordered Vazi to flatter all the enemies. But of anyone, we randomly encountered all of you. Shine, shine, shine.
Ah, shit. You won. Hey.
This is such a good.
There are 2 objects hanging from this tree. Take one.
Got dog candy.
Got candy. Oh, I hate these puzzles. There we go. Check the clock. In order to solve this puzzle, you have to hurry. Did that just say the Maze of Death? Behold, the Maze of Death. Prepare to get lost, clowns and cleanser. Who the fuck murdered that guy? Hey, wait, where am I? Help! Somebody help, I'm lost! Fucking lovely. What happened over there? You opened the treasure chest. Inside was a white ribbon. You put the white ribbon on your armor.
That ribbon is armor, Chris. It increases defense.
Why don't you try wearing an equipment revenue? I think it'll look great on you. Or... Oh, shit.
Chris, you're giving this to me. Does it look pretty?
Man gets a different voice change every fucking time he speaks. Well, wait a minute. Even your enemy, I gotta warn you, a rebel beast is roaming out, bothering everyone who dared walk away. You don't like fighting the king wants the choice.
Chris, we need to stop Susie quick.
Hey, don't look. This sign's private. Oh, it's just this way. Sign please. Yo. Oh, somehow you survived the maze, but don't count your blessings before they hatch. Let's see how you fare against this team. You ordered a basic flower earlier.
As of everyone, I'm glad we've been counted all of you.
Oh, one of you still wants me. Hey, why aren't you guys faster? You're totally outnumbered.
We made a team here, they explored enemies. The bullet powers can't. The bullet powers aren't balanced at all. It's like a dime made out of glasses of milk. It's like a dime made out of glasses of milk.
And that's, unusual somehow?
Why don't you talk about this after the fight?
It's bad, it's bad.
Chris Bed has. Good job, Chris.
Sweet, how much do I get?
You lost, Manson. You don't get any.
Oh. Can I have some of yours?
No!
Fine, later loses. What's up?
Thought you were running away.
Yeah, I finished. Open, you stupid door. Oh great, it's you guys.
Susie, we were ever so worried about you. How did you get past those spikes before?
Walk through them.
But this door sucks. Oh, don't worry, Susie. It'll open after we solve the puzzle over there. Nice. Tell me when you finish it. Susie, we need you to finish it. Sometimes proceeding will take all three of us. Furthermore, only Chris can sail the Dark Fountain, so if you don't accompany us, you won't make it home.
So you're saying I have to stick with you guys?
Yep.
One of my favorite parts.
Just get this over with.
Woohoo! Susie's back on the team. Cue the fanfare! That's my favorite fucking part. Susie, join the party! They're fucking- I never noticed she glares. I never noticed she glares through her hair. Susie follows at a distance, such that no one can tell she's associated. Chris, don't look at me. Bro, now you're good. That just scared the shit out of me. I was like, I don't think I did that. Shit, there we go. Sounds like a door opened. I always hate this puzzle.
Oh, Chris! I just realized Susie missed the tutorial. Next.
Fuck me! It's just gonna be a compilation of me fucking up this man's voice. Listen, he had a voice, I just can't pull it out of my head.
Next battle, we should teach her how to act. I think she might really enjoy that.
Hey, friend. Oh shit! Hey, friend. See you around. We got him on.
One C round about Susie, it seems barely conscious of what it means. Hey, wait, what the hell are you giving the enemy advice? So we don't accidentally hurt it? Getting it's the point you want. It attacked us, so it dies. Simple, right? But, Susie, what if the enemy might be, nice? Okay, yeah, there's a word for that. Huh? What is it? Striking first.
You idiot.
It got away. That was close, Chris. Maybe I should talk to her.
One. My baby, no. Hee, I sneaked by, made a sign.
Susie, I suppose you missed what I said earlier. As heroes, we have the power to make a peaceful future. So from now on, let's try to avoid fighting, okay? What if you just took it easy on them? If you begin an enemy, I can use my passive as spell, which can exhaust people to sleep. Yeah. Yeah, your talking was already doing that. Well, just think about this. You might have to warn enemies about her, Chris.
Hey kid. You wanna buy a tutorial? It's only $50. What? Did I say 50? Well, we just went on sale. $20 One! Only $1, please! Please, I need this right now. Really? You changed your mind? Hee. Right, sway, gentle. Scamming people out of money? Sounds about right. Susie, the violent tormentor is now your ally. The power of Mean Girl shines within you. My friend! Best boy!
Again, or not.
One of my favorite characters. Okay. What the fuck? Oh, goals. 1 monthly tutorial a week, 10 weekly tutorials monthly. Stop making tutorials. Donation help. If you like the tutorials, please throw your money into a hole. For $1. You put $1 in the hole. The hole becomes full. We're sorry, we're normally puzzle guys, but we've been forced to do tutorials just to make ends meet. When the king got power, fired everyone and replaced all the puzzle makers with him. So God. Oh, I have to... Remember how I started to want to play Undertale because of Alfie's and Papyrus's ways? I gotta do this motherfucker. I gotta Lord of the Puzzles, be careful. Forgot about him. I know all the stories are true. Alright, thank you, good sir. See you again. Oh no. Door, which we will need later. Oh shit, hey. Well, flip my projects. The clowns are back in town. Damn! She does not like Lancer. Well, the bad news, since you last saw me several minutes ago, I've created a brand new fighting team ready to stop you. Not even the Bubble Girl can stop me now. Ho-ho, are you ready to be... Stop talking. Ho-ho-ho. What is that? Why are you saying that? Ho-ho-ho. It's my evil laugh. Scary, right? You sound like a baby Santa Claus. You mean like in a bad way? Shut up. I'm so sorry. I swear to God, if you apologize one more time. You are fine. This is normal. We're used to there being a random ass background.
You really think you know how to be scary?
Well,
Well, men want to be tough guys like you who really piss me off. Face it, you wouldn't know scary if they picked you up and bit your face off.
that's not true.
Oh? Really? Then why don't we prove it? We'll start with the part where your face gets bitten off.
Oh, okay, I get it. Thank you, Purple Girl.
What?
Thanks. It was kind of you. To teach me how to be scary with an evil laugh.
Hey, I wasn't...
And now, you're gonna be dashed. Ha 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 ha. Merry Christmas. His voice just went up higher than I meant to be.
I guess that's kind of an improvement.
You and Rousey warned the enemies about Susie. Everyone went on guard. Fighting I have printed. Oh no! He barely did the finger and... Friend! I was thinking the same thing! We're friends now! La la la!
I always wanted a friend just like you.
Shit. Spare. Fuck!
Shit.
My voice is already gone.
Oh, look, Chris, another puzzle.
Oh no.
Let's read the instructions. Huh? The instructions were vandalized. It says, "Thou's fool, thou will never figure it out now." Running instructions. That's definitely against the rules. Then, says, "Psst, make my own rules. Okay." Well, that explains that. Why don't we just climb over this spiked fence? Because we would get impaled and die? Cool. I'll work on that. You can do the puzzle. Try your best, Chris.
I fucked up the puzzle.
It should be simple.
Wait, never mind.
Press the boxes on to switch with Z.
Wait,
Who the hell is Z?
there we go.
Good job, Chris. I think you're onto something. Hey, Chris, give up whenever you feel like it. It's all good. Oh, you did it, Chris. Good job. Damn, didn't get to impale myself. Oh well. Come on, chumps. Good job, Chris.
From the bottom, the order of the rooms in the King's Castle. Of course, if you haven't been there, you wouldn't know it. She escaped. I got her. I have to pee anyway, so, I got her. Well, I still gotta pee. She's like, I didn't do anything. She's like, I especially didn't do anything. I'm on the bed. I just hit the desk. Nice. artists don't even think about it. Now, what if I just casually Oh, what the fuck is his name? There it is.
Needs a light, calling it to act or to spell or to fight. Gives me this power, it's mind burning bright. I'll get my feet up before morning light. Space and time tell me how much I've grown.
Fuck. Damn it.
Did you want to be? It's just for me.
Hey, hey!
You opened the treasure chest. Inside was a broken key seed. You put the broken key seed.
Huh. That's not where I thought that was. Interesting. Friend! Hello. I'm actually gonna be a good person and actually try to get all the people saved. Why are they injured?
Act. Vince. Defend. The quick fighting is utterly swayed.
Shit. It's fine, it was Susie.
Act.
They look like nice. Again.
Swayed.
Sped. Whoa, holy shit. Oh, I hate this.
When you step into the light, you will return to where you were before.
I say I hate it as I get through it. What does that smell? Oh, yeah, you cleaned. Time to go! Shit.
Warning, you and Rousey warned the enemy about Susie. Everyone went on guard. Please, no, not the fluff boy. Please, not the fluff boy. Rousey sang a song and
Fell asleep. Susie fell asleep. The enemy became tired. Ah, fuck, leave me alone. Fuck.
This is bad. He won.
Woo! I'm actually doing good! I'm actually getting better at this fucking game.
So you and the Chris begin to cross the great border. The halfway point of your castle. Impressive. So it's a shame you won't make it a step farther. Because my guys are about to smash you into blood. Lots of blood. Swishy blood. Very gross and bad.
The lightning in the background.
Hey, Purple Girl. Was that scary?
Why are you asking me?
Because you're really cool at being terrifying. I want to be as scary as you.
You want to be like me?
Yeah.
Well, that's stupid. But the new laugh wasn't as awful. And saying turning us into blood is cool. That'll suck in the bucket though.
Except with the blood.
Oh.
Yeah. I'm not supposed to make a mess. Anyways, thanks for your feedback. I'm really feeling scary.
Oh, problem, I guess, huh? So, are you guys gonna attack us or?
Oh, yeah. I was excited. I forgot to bring any guys. But next time, you'll be the end for sure. Hey, I've just been calling you guys clowns. You guys have an official team name or something?
Official name or something?
Oh, Chris, we should come up with a name. No, we shouldn't.
Then it's decided. Everyone put a name in the bucket. Alright, everyone. Put in their entries. Blue person, you can choose. Since you look like you don't care.
Alright. Who are we going for? I don't think I've ever chose Lancers. I 100% chose. We're doing Lancers. You take the paper with Lancer written on the outside. You open it up. On the inside, it also says Lancer.
Oh, what did it say? Is it really good?
Wait, why did you get to choose? Why did you get to choose the name? Okay, you didn't. Chris did.
Yeah. It doesn't matter who may have written it. But guys, Lance is gonna meet absolute doom.
This name feels weird, actually.
I know. Let's call it the Lancer Fan Club for short.
Yes! Yes!
See you later. Me.
Shush. Shush. I have done everything else. The power of the Lancer fan club shines within you. Whoa!
I don't want to hear shit.
Shit. Bro, I literally looked at my phone for a second. Shit. Shit, oh my god. Lego. One of you's gonna come. Oh, it's multiple of you. Shit. You and Rousey ruined the enemies about Susie. Everyone's on guard. Yada yada yada. We've already seen this. Why the fuck is Rousey short boy? I meant to say low health boy. Why the fuck did I say short boy? Hold on, bye. I was using a soft image. Oh, 100% fuck what I was gonna say earlier. Damn. These bitches got hands. Please do not wake up for the love of fuck. Thank you.
Fear not. We, unlike the simple Pullman, possess full fertility over our actions. I, Mr. Society, am far too intelligent to ever bow down to such a tyrant. Unless they ask me, he's very scary, you see.
Whoa, whoa. Or is he? Harmony scared, but not following the king. Us on the board used to have our own boss. Those were peaceful times, but now, having the boss has been reduced to a king's peon.
Ha-ha! Well, step on my boots. If it isn't the Lesser Fan Club. You boys or girls had better turn back while you can. Answer. What is it this time?
Oh, I'm simply warning you. Someone extremely dangerous is lying ahead. It's actually inconvenient. Inconceivable. What the fuck? I can't go home at all because I'm so scared.
What is it?
It is Butt's dog friend.
Oh, hey, little guy.
That's what you're afraid of? Whoa, Pepper Girl, you aren't scared?
Why should I be scared?
What's it gonna do? Well, normally. It got a motherfucking crown. Who gave the bitch a crown?
I got fucking jump scared by something moving on my bed.
It crushes people to death, I think. You and Rousey bowed. How's back? Its crown's loosened.
That's it, Chris. We can get its crown off. It should turn back into a little guy.
Susie, help us bow at it.
Nah, the crown will come off when I smash this little guy to the ground.
Size! Shit! You explained to K Round about the impression that Dawson was using attack, but it doesn't seem to understand. You and Razzie bowed. Its crown's loosened. K-Round feels stressed out and attacks. Just self-cared. Aww! It's HP attack. Oh, fuck! Susie, stop attacking it! You're making it stronger! Psst. And then I think I'm afraid? No way. I don't give a fuck that Rousey's... What? 40% loose. Okay. You and Rousey bowed. If I fucking die because of this thing. Thighs! What the fuck? The thighs are deadly. You and Rousey bowed. You think anyone here needs therapy because of what Susie has done? Let's go.
We did it.
Whoa! You cons are heroes! You saved the next 20 minutes of my life!
Yeah,
Pretty great, huh?
Susie? Not to downplay your contribution, but you didn't actually help the dog. You only made everything worse by attacking it. You had just acted nice to it in the first place. We couldn't have avoided the entire battle. Huh? Are you for real? That thing was bloodthirsty. The only thing keeping it at bay was my axe. And earlier you were terrorizing those troops. Those people were enemies. They were for terrorizing.
Yeah, she's right.
And before that, you ate an innocent person's cake. Cakes are also my enemy. Susie, whether you like it or not, I almost said you're not a hero.
That would have been bad.
You're a hero. One with the power to bring peace to the future. Could you please stop acting like one? Yeah, when you lay it out like that. I've been a pretty bad hero, haven't I? Checking something so Twitch doesn't lose its shit at me. Susie. You got it. I'll change my ways. From now on, I won't be the rotten hero anymore. I'll be one of the bad guys instead.
Really? You're gonna be on my team?
Oh, sounds way easier, honestly. Susie, you can't just...
Quiet, toothpaste boy. Fuck. Not the toothpaste boy. Susie's my comrade now.
Yeah, toothpaste boy.
We're gonna have a monogram track pocket.
Yeah.
And sleepovers where we tell each other secrets.
Yeah. Anyways, see you guys never.
Huh. You can't even last that long.
Chris, perhaps I shouldn't have been so hard on her. But I just worry that if Susie is too eager to fight, then, well, let's just be kind to her. Okay, Chris? I'm sure Susie will come around soon. Stick above your head. The power of the forest shines within you. It's a door. Where will you go?
Okay. I'm like nowhere near where I'm supposed to be.
Door opened.
Such a good song. Alright. Snow poof.
Nice cake to go.
Hey yo, why the bro throwing carrots at me? My vision's already shit. I don't need more. What? Why am I feral? When did I be? Why? I just have energy.
Susie, Mensa.
Well, if it isn't the little so-called heroes.
We're finally ready to see what happens.
When you try to act soft.
That's the team that is anyone on their way.
Backtrack Lenson! Violin X Susie.
Together we are
The Dark Lens Fan Club.
I love this game. So what's your
That's wrong person. I literally was just meant to click on something.
So what's your evil plan? Huh? Dude, we just formed our team. We haven't even done anything past our intro yet. Have a little patience, please. Oh, sorry. Looking forward to the rest. Well, you won't have to look forward for long.
Starting now, we're going to work carelessly.
Unstoppably.
Oh my god. This is why I can't be a voice actor. My brain goes fucking burr. To make evil plans to thrash you clowns.
Watch your backs.
And your fronts. That's a snow. That's a poof. That's a person. You know what?
Don't mind me, I'm on break. Say, help me, I need to find something for my friend Clover's birthday. My only interests are sports, cute boys, and trees. So you just get her a card.
It's a stump with some kind of dinner hole in it.
How's the evil scheming going?
That we got bored, so we're having a snack.
I see. Come on, all I ate for breakfast was chalk.
I didn't eat anything.
Sorry, what are you having exactly?
Just a daily treasure I had stump.
Nice. And that is...
Feast for yourself, my main man.
Chris, do you want it? Try it.
Try it.
There's a honey powder still inside the stump. We ate some salsa.
Recovered something. Not HP, just something.
Hey, what's in this?
I don't know. Rousey's about to be concerned for my fucking health. Oh, I hate this. Bada bing, bada boom.
Swagger. You put swagger in your weapons.
I'm just a little ball. I don't want to discuss anything. Ah, that's a scarf. I noticed that you simply took it without asking. That's fine. It's my gift to help you defeat the king. You folks are really energetic, huh? And potentially criminals. I have done nothing wrong in my entire existence. Just don't ask about the criminal record. Enter the password. Due to everyone forgetting the password, it's written on the top. Thanks for doing the puzzle for us, losers. Thank you so much, losers. We're having trouble. Yeah, I need this. Diamond. Club. No, that's Clover. So it's Diamond Club, Clover. Oh shit. No, it was not. I always forget about this. So spade, diamond, clover, spade. How the fuck did I get good at those? You open the treasure chest. Inside was a dice brace. You put dice brace in your armor. Hey, friend, you actually get armor. Bow. Break the box for bracelet. Bow. It will boost your defense. The king wants to eliminate lightness, but we don't agree. We escaped, but the others are arrested. I'm trying.
Okay, Cave, but what a hunk. You've analyzed the puzzle to stop the lightness. But we know the answer. Oh, you want to get through? Of course, we'll tell you. The first symbol is a heart. Just like love. Does that help?
Incredibly.
Symbol puzzle. All the symbols were different, I think. You can, still see the colors.
There were two. Sorry, I can't be any more help.
Huh? Symbol puzzle? Why should we care? None of the symbols were clubs.
It's not it's insulting. So heart. Shit. How? A fucked up the puzzle and it still worked. I swear to God, I'm not good at these shit.
Hey, it's my birthday today, and you didn't even say hello. That's fine, actually. Stop and say hi, folks. Shut up. They don't deserve us. Hey, calm down, you two. Let's celebrate my birthday. Yeah, get ready to hurt. Oh, I'm sorry about this.
I'm fighting a cat. Act. Talk about boys.
What kind of boys do you like?
It seems like clothes enjoy talking about that. Ah!
Do you like, sports?
It seems clothes enjoy talking about that. Please, no. We're triplets. I love the conversation.
Ah, fuck!
I love this boy. Love the fluff boy. Oh. Save in the heart of the world. Woods, a bake sale stands quietly with the power of recovery bake sales. Door.
Door? Well, I'm the smith. I can fix anything, weapons, armor. I can even fix you. Well, what will it be? Fix item, huh? The cake is steaming with energy. You must let me fix it. Let me feel my technique.
The broken cake was fixed beyond recognition. The broken cake becomes the top cake. This is truly a with power wisely. It's a door. Where will you go? Why do I smell chocolate? Oh. Please, we've already went through this. I get really quiet when I play when I'm focusing. Oi!
That cake, it's seeming with power. It's my cake, isn't it? Did you repair it? Will you return it?
Give cake.
I can spin my friend sharing my I made worse cakes I can do not have. If you're not getting a cake, I'll give you one forever.
You traded the top cake for a spin cake. Now I'm going to continue to spin and cry, spin and cry. My rejected pastry! Please, please no. I don't want to be here no more. Yada. We've been through so many fucking times. Where are you going? I sound so aggressive, but I'm like, I swear I'm not slamming my keyboard. Exhale. The door opened. Ah! Could have went to the cat. Alright, we did that.
Interesting on showtime, and all proceeds go to women relief funds. I guess it's only 40. Okay, I guess.
My bad.
There's a heart donut. Proceed to get a healthy house crust.
We'll buy one of each.
Seems happy. The heart donut is added to your items. Thanks, I guess.
What do you want?
Greetings, gentle clowns. May we interest you in a Atlanta cookie? I'll purchase go to kicking your ass. It's a mere 40. Fuck it. Thanks. The Atlanta cookies added to your items. They're getting cheated by us. Now we may fund our plan.
Did they just...
Alright. How should we split this jelly donut? I'll take the blood, and you take the skin. But may I ask, how does a donut fit into your plan? All of our plans associated with delicious treats. Seems like you need the plan school doctor toothpaste. Yes, and a second doctorate, smart genius. I'm being made fun of. Sadly.
Fuck! Oh, I forgot about this. Oh shit, receipt.
Excuse with its new self.
Oh my god.
Fuck.
I need to give Rousey more fucking help. My god, my poor boy.
Before the king came along, I used to eat these leaves from this tree. Now I still do that, which is the way of the worm. The worm. The worm knows all. Chest.
Woo! $40. Money, money, money! Oh. Interesting. Yo. Ah! Oh shit. Fuck! No! Hey, remember how I said this might be the round I fucking die? Shit.
You open the treasure chest. Inside was a broken key. You put the broken key in your items.
Please don't be back. There, you fucks can get some health. Motherfucker, please. Oh my god, shit! Are you fucking kidding me? I didn't come here for this. in the corner. Nothing bad ever happens in the corner. I spoke too soon. Shit, bad stuff happens in the corner. It's far. It's fine. Inside was revivement. You got the revive. Oh, son of a bitch, please leave me alone. Oh ho ho, it is me, Rowan, we. Ooh, if only the heroes could help. That's it? Is everything alright? Oh, I'm not Lanza, I'm just a sweet little boy. Oh, just a sweet little boy with a mustache. As a disguise! So, what kind of help do you need? See, I have this evil plan I need to make. And why does this sweet boy need an evil plan? To impress his cool friend Susie. It's for friendship. Well then, we'll gladly help. What shall we do? It's on the paper, you give us a little apple. Or about to build a duck. Just fill it with the most evil thing you can imagine. Ho ho ho. Let the clan trainer and captain begin. Duck. Duck. Presented by Lancer Industry, which was just made up. Duck. 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 My partner just makes it. Yes. Yes. Looks nasty. Are you sure you are evil? No, I suppose we just have a knack for it. Trick you idiots. Never do something someone else can do for you. It's just a duck. Guys, this evil plan sucks ass. My fault in any way? Yeah, good. Woohoo! The bad guys are getting off scot-free again! She's still gonna get affection. Rush you later, you fools! Bro, I need healing.
Why did you jump into my fist? Was that smart? No.
Book it! Fuck! Run. Oh my god. Revolves around the center, and look carefully. The darker it gets, the more you can see. Damn it. I know why there's a thing you can get here. Gotcha. Through hard sea, there was a switch in the tree. Doesn't seem to do anything else interesting in the tree. Please, I need some. God damn. How's the dashing machine redesigned? The what machine? The machine? We had a slow sequence about it. Yeah, we made it at the last minute. You two should really start working on it earlier. What's with the lecture? I didn't come here for a second, Dad. Yeah, you tell him. By the way, bring yourself to the forest maze. You'll probably get completely lost. Not someone who knows the way through it is. Yeah, I know the forest like the back of my head. fucking book it!
Hey, losers. Wait a second. Where's Lancer? Well, he wasn't going the right way, so...
You left him wandering by himself?
You know he's bad at mazes, right? He's probably lost and confused right now.
Oh, I'm lost and confused!
Sorry, Susie. We didn't mean to make you worry about him.
Huh? Look, I'm not worried about him. That guy's gotta look out for each other. That's all. Anyways, get out of my way. I'm going to find him. Seems she doesn't know the right way either, Chris.
How the fuck? Nope. Yeah, that's a no for me today, Chief.
It's the duck! Isn't that the machine we designed? Alright, this will be tough, but let's try our best. Oh, that's not good, actually. Oh, you think that's bad? Just wait. And see what happens when it starts.
Oh, poor Rossi. His design sucks, so we blew it up.
Ah, I see. So now your plan is going to be... Turns out we didn't need a plan, just a rule. Anyone that gets in our way gets crushed into dust.
But Susie, you need to return home. Doesn't crushing us seem a little counterproductive?
Ah, see, that's where you're wrong. You see, I know I can't get back without you guys, but being a good guy isn't really my style, so I thought of a little way we could just settle this. If you can beat me, I'll go back to being a good guy, but if you lose, you guys will have to become bad guys with us. And do whatever we say. Oh, I wish is our command! So, what'd you say?
What?
Don't bother answering. We're just gonna dash you anyway, so...
You told Rosie to combat the enemy.
You two look like a really great team, I'm proud.
Nancy starts to become a little convinced. I told Rosie to logically...
You two, if we don't stop fighting, then someone might get hurt.
Nancy becomes more convinced. It's working.
Don't you pick a card?
I can braid your hair.
Nancy becomes almost fully convinced.
And Summer, I like you too, and I think we should all just get along.
Oh no!
What's wrong, dude?
I accidentally started liking the enemy. Now seeing them just makes me... Ow!
I almost just fucking punched myself in the face and my wrist got caught on my headphone. Bad atmosphere for battle, though. Well, if you don't want to fight, there's no plan, I guess. Battle's over.
Well, you didn't beat us because you, kinda cheated by ganging up on Lancer with, kindness. But if I have to, I guess I'll go back to your side. But don't expect me to do anything but fight. Well, we're happy to have you back, Susie. Yeah, let's just hurry on and go home.
Susie? Does this mean we aren't a team anymore? Susie's voice has been consistent. Surprisingly.
Of course we're still a team. You can, be a part of the Lancer fan club.
Well, me and the Lancer fan club. Wait, hang out with the good guys, then. Can we still have a monogram jacket? Yeah, Rousey will make him. Huh? Okay, sure. Haha, Lance will join the team. Love how he gets the handsome face. It's great. Yes. Lance will join the team.
You can follow behind us, you know.
Oh, okay.
I noticed you aren't doing that.
Yeah. My boy deserves a hug. Wow, this is cool. I've never been on such a big team before.
Don't you have a legion of various guys?
Yeah, my dad forced him to listen to me. So they don't actually like me very much.
No, you don't need those clowns anymore. Just chill with us.
Hey.
Man, I'm still hungry. It's like nothing I ate here matters. Should have stolen my money for the bake sale, I guess. I was thinking of baking a cake later. What's the catch? You have to stop making fun of me for one. Pass.
Aw, my boy. See, look, a star, a candy tree.
Hell yeah. Done. The last piece is too high to reach.
Worry not, Susie. I have a special transformation for times like this.
Really?
Watch and land, team. Stool mode. Look, stool form.
All you did was put your hands on the ground.
Hey,
Don't act jealous. So jealous. Got it.
shit, I accidentally clicked my mouse. Ooh, tell me what it tastes like.
Huh? You haven't tried it before.
Oh, I mean, I've always wondered what it's like, but I'm not allowed to pick it for myself.
Well, you can tell me what it tastes like.
Oh. Love him. You're giving me... I thought you were hungry.
Changed my mind.
Oh, Candy joins the team!
Please don't tell me Candy joins the actual team.
Alright, already. I love how it's just no.
So, what did it taste like?
Yummy, yummy. It tastes like friendship.
What does that taste like?
Haha. Like my teeth are disintegrating.
So sugar. That's... I keep entering myself. That's actually bad.
Yeah, and thank you for sharing. You're a good friend.
Well, you too, I guess.
Y'all ready for pain? Just walking alone with you guys feels nice. Like I'm doing something important.
That's because you're along the lightness answer. Our purpose, darkness, is to assist them. It's the only way we can feel truly fulfilled.
Really? But my dad, I hate lightness. He wants to.
Does your dad seem happy?
I'm not sure.
Oh god, therapy. No, I don't need 3 streams back to back where free therapy is involved. Let's ditch the purpose talk. Probably just glad you ate that weird berry.
Yeah, I'm still boosted from the juice.
I mean, look, I'm not from here and hanging out like this. I'm also feel kind of you know, happy? Psh, no. Maybe. Look, everyone, we can see the castle.
Yes, that's where I live. Me and, my dad.
What's the black thing emerging from the top? That's the fountain, Susie. If we can get there, you and Chris will finally be able to go home. Jeez, took long enough. Chris, Lancer, let's go.
Let me talk to him. Are you sure there isn't another way home? The fountain is being guarded right now. If you're trying to go through there, you might get hurt and...
What? Come on, Lancer. No one's gonna beat a team like us. If anyone gets in our way, all we gotta do is crush them.
But what if we have to fight?
Everybody bleeds, right? Don't worry about it. Whoever it is, they're cold on the ground before you can blink.
But Susie...
What?
Oh, I think I need to go.
Huh? When are you gonna be back?
Never. Huh? Wait a second. Lancer, why are you acting so weird? Susie, wait! I love how Chris just looks towards the player like, son of a bitch. I just start approaching the castle. Fucking get them. Time to go! Dodge and weave. Broken ankles. Never mind. Shit. God. Lancer. Hey, what are you doing? You cornered them. Wait. Night.
Hee, you poor lightness. You were told to keep you in prison for eternity. Bye-bye. Love to see you guys get punished. Oh, well, this is a fine. How do you do, isn't it, Chris? A prison for eternity. That sounds like might take a while. And Susie, where's Susie? We have to find her, Chris, before she gets hurt. Or, hurt someone else. Maybe there's something we can escape with in here. Life cannot exist without consumption. Even the moss drinks water. Persecute the psycho essence. Persecute.
You ate the moss. Taste mossy. Your HP was mossed out.
Chris, this might seem like a bad situation, but I know you can find something out.
I ate the moss.
The shackles seem oddly fashionable. Take them? Take. There's a crack in the wall. What could be inside? It's more wall. The moss has been eaten. The cycle continues. You rattle the bars. It's no use.
Oi!
So, Chris, what did you find? What's all that green stuff around your mouth? 2 minutes in jail and you've already started eating moss. You even put the punch supervision tackles, so, you look like a prisoner for life. So you couldn't find anything. Well, Chris, let's not start giving up hope just yet. But if we don't make it for some reason, then I wanted to say I'm glad I was able to meet. Hey, idiots! Can you shut up? I'm trying to concentrate. Susie, where are you? I don't know. Prison. Seriously though, I'm out of cell. As we talked the war into giving me the keys. Susie, really? How?
I invited him to fish at the trash can. Anyways, now that there's a puzzle in the way.
Okay, solve it, Susie. I don't do puzzles. Hey, how about we just sit tight and wait for Lance? He lives in the castle. He's bound to want to come save us. Why don't Chris and I just help you solve the puzzle? Look, I don't need your help. But, you said you do out loud, you know. I wouldn't stop you. Chris tells Susie what to do.
How did I get good at the puzzles? I used to suffer with these things. And now I'm like really good. What happened?
Great, now you can free us. Alright, alright. Thanks for helping her, Chris. She appreciates it. Chris, are you worried about Susie? She'll be fine. Well, regardless of how you feel, I don't think it would hurt to take a moment, close your eyes, and think about what she's doing right now.
Alright, Alicel, where to next? Chris, did you say something back there?
I can't hear them anymore.
I'll just go this way. Oh, that's a dead end.
That's Lance's voice. Damn, that's another one of these. Maybe I should go back and ask Chris.
And make sure they...
Lancer? Well, I'll just do it myself.
Understand? They have to stay in the cells. The liners cannot be allowed to escape. Especially the purple one.
Answer?
Susie! Wait, what are you doing here?
Lancer, Chris and Elsie are still locked up.
I know. I was the one who told my troops to put you down here. To keep you down here. Forever.
Lancer, you want to get rid of us? I thought we were a team.
I can explain, Susie.
Nah, it's fine. It's fine, actually. You don't have to say anything. I get it. I get it, you know. Why would anyone really want to be my friend anyways?
Susie, that's not...
Shut up.
But...
Shut up. Get out of my way.
Did you hear me? Get out of my way. No.
Did you not hear me? And I tried to warn you. So don't expect me to feel guilty when they have to clean you off the floor.
Shit.
They get crushed.
He has an insane amount of health.
Die so much, then die.
Susie? You missed...
I don't want to kill you, man. Just move. Please. Susie, if I let you guys go, then you and my dad will fight, and he'll kill each other. At least if you stay here, neither of you will get hurt. Then I won't kill him. Promise. Me and him will just, talk it out. Peaceful strat. You know? I don't think my dad will like that. Hey, that's it. Come on. We're a team, right? Nothing can stop us, fighting or not, alright? Yeah, you're right. You might as well try. I can try too. I'll help too. I'll talk to my dad, find him up. Hey, now you're getting somewhere. I'll head over right away. Susie? Yeah? Are we still friends? Huh? Of course. I mean, if you want to be. Phew, see ya. See you. Ugh. How am I gonna get past his dad like that? Come on, I'll figure out something.
So why? Okay, Chris.
Sup?
Hey.
Susie, you came to save us.
I knew you had the heart to be a hero, Susie.
Yeah, don't push your luck. Chris and Rousey joined the Oh, ooh.
Yeah, even I got arrested, and I'm just a pair of eyes. We'll come to.
Yo. Oh.
Since I didn't invite you guys, how could I? You guys seem way nicer than the king.
Oh, we got people arrested. That's fine.
Alrighty, this should take us up out of here.
Now, this might take a while, so
Get comfortable, everyone.
Chris looks fucking dead.
Hey, Rousey. You know Lance's dad, the king.
yes.
When we meet him, do you think we'll have to hurt him?
Susie,
I mean, I could easily smash him, but you guys know that's not really your thing. I know that's not really your thing. You're more about groveling like total losers. And I was thinking maybe I could do the too.
Susie, you mean you want to try acting?
Oh, yeah.
Susie, we'll be happy to
If you act with us.
And don't worry. We'll get up. We'll be there to help you. You won't have to figure it out by yourself.
Sure. Alright. Hey, Rousey.
Susie?
Are you still gonna make those cakes?
Well, will you stop making fun of me?
Well, if I have to, I guess.
Then I'll make you as many as you like. Alright?
Yeah. Like, you can make that many, dude.
Welcome to hell.
Well, doesn't that stop?
Hey, Chris, wait a sec. You know, I'm starting to realize it'd be easy for us to get out of here if we all get along a little more. So next time we fight an enemy, you tell me what to do, I'll listen to you. But, you know, don't tell me anything stupid. Or I will go back to smashing heads, alright? Chris, I'm counting on you, okay?
Susie joined the party for real.
Where will you ride the elevator to?
So lonely, lonely I will be, but oh, 3 visitors stand inside. How are you, Fuel? Nice to meet you. I'm Rousey. This is Chris, and...
So, what the hell are you doing in here?
I am innocent. I just wanted to play a game. But the boring king found such fun to be trouble. As punishment, they craved to imprison my body, but I'm fast, clever. They locked a chest and locked up their entire race, building a prison on the whole world, so now I'm the only one free. Huh? Free. But you're clearly the one behind bars. Things have seemed such fun here.
Nightmares. Well, sounds like you don't need any help then.
That's so. I'll go lonely in my little freedom. So shall you play a game with me? I'll show you what it means to be free. Find the key and I'll let you be free. The key is hidden from the eye. The old shopkeeper knows the secrets.
Y'all genuinely thought I wasn't gonna do this man's fight at least once in my life? You're wrong. Also, his voice was fucking improvised. For a second, I thought Rosie fell at the elevator!
Yes!
You told Susie to compliment the enemy. Are you serious? As good as I can say something tried to kill us.
Aw, Susie, if you're stuck, why not saying something you wish someone had said to you?
You're unbanned from the free hams shop.
Those-
Ah! Those are knives!
These keep bodies trapped.
That's a knife! Those are knives! Shit! Why is Rousey squishy? He's so squishy.
You opened the treasure chest. Inside was a club sandwich. You put the club sandwich in your item. Castle bathroom, royal flush, currently.
I hate everything. So the worms have decided to crawl out and play.
Who's there?
That's fools! This place is gonna fuck me up. It's Roxcon, your greatest advisory. The way of Claudia past 1,000 oh my god. Others condemned. Those who created by the ultimate weaklings. Now prepare yourselves for the stunning puzzle that's life. The worms! God damn it! I'm just gonna go on my merry way because I don't gotta deal with your shit right now. And up we go. Shit. Hey, shit. You ordered Susie flirt with the enemy. And hell no. Aw, Susie, it's okay if you don't know how. What? Shut up. I'm not doing their voices during this stuff. Are you sure? Alright, look, wise guy, I'll show you, watch this. Ahem. So, remember often? How awkward it just did. Hey, get back here. I'm looking for with you. Shit. 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 So use the flirt with the enemy. Hell no.
See what else you do. I suppose that can help. Your beauty is just transcendent. Your hair is like a water full of... Wait, do you have a... Oh, the awkward and left. Oh dear. Wait. That was easy, huh?
How about we stop flirting with the goddamn enemy, please? God, Chris, I can't do it yourself. You said some sweet lines, the enemy was deeply immersed. Chris got Riz. I'm gonna go drown myself because of that comment. Oh shit.
Damn it.
Those guys really think it's something else. Run! It's time for you to feel my real power. Behold my ultimate puzzle. Come after you! This man's not. I'm going to win. That wasn't my real ultimate puzzle. I have a wasted better one. Here. Can we see it? No. It's the best fucking line of the game. Nope. Just no. It's music player. Listen to the content. Appreciate it. It's full of cartoon splat noises. I appreciate it. Bicycle is only tucked into bed. Ah. My goodness. Shit. Why did I hit that? Equipment. We're not gonna fight him just yet, because I am going to do something else. And my injured foot's asleep. That's fun and exciting and every- Why do I keep hitting ASD? Fuck off, let me be. Why are you there? You're already there. Shit. So I want to see if I can do... I guess I can't right now, which is fine. I keep thinking Rousey keeps falling off the fucking elevator. Enough worms! His voice keeps fucking changing and I don't have the fucking mentality to deal with it. Thus I've cheated through my puzzles, but in combat there shall be scattered about. Come, caves, prepare for battle with... Oh, it's thighs. Whatever this is.
Huh? It's the enemy from earlier. But its crown looks different.
It looks the same. Yes, with my controlled crown, I may control any escaping life form.
Oh no, it looks like it's in pain.
Looks the same. Yes, the control room is paramount and painful, but I'm certain this creature will feel its relief when it seems how much more pain thou shalt be in. Susie, how do you act? Oh, what's your idea? Well, how do I say this? I kind of need you for this one.
That's fine, Susie. I'll be help.
Try to speak earlier, right? The crown loosened a little. Shit. The crown greatly loosened. Thighs! The crown greatly loosened. Fastest round I've ever done of that in my life. You won. And man gave me $8 for this. Why brilliant! Just brilliant. I knew you could do it. Thou heroes of thou seeth that merely a friendly test of thy ability. If thou hast won and nothing blocking thy way, I personally cannot take less of an obstruction. But you, lucky with you, heroes! Lucky with you. The fact that there's no music.
Hey, there's Lancer.
Father!
Lancer, my son. Have you disposed of the lightness as I commanded?
No, but... And even better! I turned out we don't actually have to fight them! They said they could just talk to you and...
They're alive?
Yes, and I think you like them a lot! There's Susie, she's purple and strong and...
Where are they now?
Sup?
Hey.
It's nice to meet you.
Lancer, Lancer, my son.
Yes, Father? Ah, shit.
Do you remember what I told you? Do you?
No, don't get too attached.
You have failed, and have poisoned you with their sentimentality. For yourself, Lancer.
Fuck, he gets normal voice.
They care not for you, and the only goal is to destroy our glorious fountain. They are scum.
No, they're not. Man doesn't react.
Let him go.
You want me to let him go?
How about this? I'll drop him off the edge and let him splatter. Unless you all kneel and learn your place. What will it be, Lightness?
Don't listen to him, Susie. He'll.
Now watch, Lancer. See what happens when you befriend Lightness.
But what the? You tried to come back here.
I had enough already.
Who the hell do you think you are?
To my people, I am a hero. To you,
I'm the motherfucking bad guy.
all light, betrayed and cast aside. No hope, no plan. Sorry, now say goodbye. Tonight the light is died.
Shit.
Into every breath. Who are you? Somebody to rain. People who try and stop the rain. King of kings, the king of fame. Took the gold. Shadows, 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 shadows fall. For your king.
Damn!
Stop the rain.
Shit, oh my god.
Shadows fall. Betrayed and cast aside.
How's this too fucking squishy? Who? Sorry, pause. Who's this? I'll figure it out. Okay. Oh fuck, I will take any other pattern but this one. Oh, I always hate this one. I mean, I almost got my ass kicked by a bunch of cats.
Let the shadows fall.
Okay, shit. Why? When I say I actually have a hatred for this one, that's not a joke. Fuck.
He's too fucking squishy.
Go fuck yourself. Enough was enough. I don't give a fuck. I see that I cannot defeat. I don't give a fuck. You're a lying cunt. You a bitch. And I don't like you. From a long battle. I don't care. I know you lying. You just gonna snipe me.
Lightness, perhaps I've been too cruel. The truth is, I was not always like this. There was once a time where the darkness and lightness lived in harmony, a time where darkness would fill their purpose with peace. It would be a lie to say that I, too, do not yearn for those.
Shut the fuck up. You are a lying bitch who's gonna end up stabbing all of us in the back. Shut the fuck up.
Perhaps you young ones were right. Please, let us put away our weapons. There must be a peaceful solution to all this. Come on now, Susie.
Nah, Susie got the right idea. I'll give it to her.
I'm glad you're starting to realize, Mr. King. None of us really want to fight. You can just please tell us about your worries. I'm sure we can all be friends, Mr. King. Yes. Friends. That sounds lovely. Cough, cough, my...
Fiscal cough comes. My apologies. I'm not used to fighting like that. My body is not getting weak.
Oh, don't say another word.
Why? Oh, he's too innocent.
There, you should be healed up. Now, do you feel... Let's see.
God damn it. That's a terrifying smile.
Yeah, but better.
You... Did I say you could get up? Damn! Oh, spare me the heroics. Get up. You're the leader, aren't you? See, what's your plan? To laugh as you have passed to obscurity? You can't even say.
Let me tell you a secret. Quiet people piss me off.
That's my line, bitch.
Hey. Get away from my friend. Or what?
You'll kill me?
Huh?
So what's your plan then? To talk me to death?
You stupid, stupid Lightner.
You honestly think you have any way?
To convince me not to kill you. Nuh-uh. But they might.
Let's... Everyone! What is the meaning of this? Sorry, Dad. You're being overthrown. When I told everyone you were fighting lightness, everyone remembered how kind they were. They decided they would rather have a king that accepts them. Me. Now I'm the dad.
You idiots, the Lightness are your enemy. Fools, I'll kill you. I'll kill all of you.
Yikes, I think someone needs a timeout. Go to your room, Dad.
No. You alright, Chris?
Oh no! My boy!
Chris, Susie! Oh, you're alright. Yeah. Takes more than that to get us down. Chris, Susie, I'm sorry. Because I healed the king, we almost... Susie, you were right. I was foolish to think we could act so soft to everyone. This isn't a world where kindness always wins, is it?
It's complicated. Sometimes there's people you just gotta fight. But if you ever let your guard down then, you might just hurt someone you care about. Aw, Susie! You're beginning to sound like a real hero. Don't get used to it.
Don't get used to it. We're about to go fight a bitch. Actually, we'll save that for next time. I just 9:30. I hit my 2-hour quota.
I suppose you and Chris should return home now. Yeah, I guess that's right, huh? Well, see ya.
Mitch, we ain't leaving. We ain't done yet. I gotta go fight someone.
Hey, Chris. Wait a second. I know you want to give a real goodbye to everyone, right? I mean, and all for leaving right away, but you know we could go back to the sea. It's like if you want. Well, what are we waiting for? Let's head back.
Zoomy time.
Chris? Susie, you came back. Well, Chris just wanted to say bye, you know? Oh, actually, everyone here wanted to say goodbye too. Please let me know when you leave. When you leave, alright? Yeah. We'll try not to skip you.
Mr. Shopkeeper. God fucking damn it. Never mind. I kind of forgot you can't go back after that.
Chris, Susie, are you leaving? No, talk to Lance at first.
Okay, shit. I literally forgot after you feed the king, you cannot go back. Future me is just like, I will replay this fucking game and record it separately.
Susie, blue person whose name I like turned all along. I thought you were going home ways. Yeah, but Chris wanted to say goodbye, you know? Oh, really? Oh, that's funny. I thought you wanted to say goodbye because you were friends. Huh? I mean, I didn't not want to. You're the king now, huh? Yes, and I'm changing big rules, some big rules. First, laters are illegal. Second, prison is not only for dads. Seems like some pretty good changes. Hey, your dad was protecting the fountain, right? Is it gonna be okay if we mess with it? I have no idea. But it's you guys, so I trust you. If something bad happens, we'll figure it out. Yeah. I guess we'll just see, I guess. Well, see you later.
Come back soon. There's always room in the town for a couple of rounds. Please let me go through. Damn it, please. Well, we have the save file for a reason. I can fuck with it.
You leaving? Hell if I know, I'm just following Chris. Guess we'll have to walk. Are you going to leave? Yes. I just wanted to say I really enjoyed meeting you two, and hey, can you stop mumbling into your hat for a second? I can barely hear you, dude. Oh, I'm sorry. Chris, Susie, love boy. I hope I can see you again soon. Next time I'll make you a lot of yummy cakes, alright?
Yeah, sure, dude. Huh. Let's go, Chris.
The fluff boy. The fluff boy. Now you want to stay, but we gotta go.
Fluff boy. Again, man's got favoritism. If you ever think I'm doing the fucking genocide right after this, you're wrong. I literally had Atlas do it because I was like, nah. So there's a save file. It exists. It's not here.
Feels like we stumbled into something really important, didn't we?
His name starts with a J. Fucking cigarette box gives me a headache every time I listen to this.
There's no time to think about that now.
Right now. It's time to go home. Right, Chris? As you stand in front of the fountain, you feel something strange. It was as if your very soul was glowing.
Surprise, bitch! It's me! Surprise, motherfucker! It's me! Surprise it! I'm not gonna listen to Delta and the music and just fucking vibe.
What happened? I can't see anything.
Hey, watch it.
No. Huh? The unused classroom. How did we get here? Hey, Chris? What? What just happened? Like, that wasn't a dream or anything, was it? Anyways, as I was saying, let's just tell Alphys we couldn't find any chalk.
The door is locked. It's a worn out, dead stuffed animal. It's a checkerboard. There are pawns strewed onto it. Playing cards spilled out from the deck in the closet. Can I yoink lancers? It's a yellowed, poorly drawn picture of a green turtle. It's signed. Man, the sun's already setting. Everyone else must have gone home by now. Guess Alphys know better than to ask us next time, huh? Well, guess we should go. See you later, I guess. Chris. Let's go back there tomorrow, alright? The door is locked. The door is locked. Well, maybe we should not lock doors.
Some kind of prismatic scarf. Who knows what it represents?
Miss Toriel is written in cursive on the dry erase board. It seems like it hasn't been erased in a very long time. Some kind of teaching food. It's an apple.
Chris! Wherever have you been doing? I sat in the car waiting for you after school for half an hour. I called and called, but you never picked up. You had your poor mother word sick. Chris, I'm afraid that I'm going to have to punish you. Huh? A friend. You were spending time with a friend. Chris, I'll make an exception this time. You continue your adventures a little longer, but when you return home, you are going to have to go to bed early. See you soon, honey.
Sorry, that's really my favorite things to do. Locker's covered. Am I crazy or did she used to put a dent in the locker? The computer is turned off. Everything felt peaceful for a moment. Bunch of roses.
Hey, punk, get out of the road. You're blocking traffic. Oh, wait. It's just Azagor's kid.
Sorry, I'm a little worked up lately. This job is so boring, nothing ever matters in this town. Just something could shake things up. Huh? You got something to report? Oh, you want to help me? Sure, punk. Get someone around the bank so I can suplex them. Wait, do we even have a bank? Hey, get someone to build a bank.
Dad, I can't just say that to her. Why I die? I literally die.
Noelle, sweetheart. First time I laid on to see a mother. I walked right up to her and told her she was a hot piece of work.
Really?
Yeah, she slapped me so hard I blacked out.
Dad, that doesn't help at all.
Anyhow, how's Dragon Blaze 3? Beat it yet?
No. Still the ice powers. I've been kind of waiting to finish it with you, Dad.
Noelle, maybe you shouldn't wait.
Dad.
Should bring it here. I'm bored as hell.
Fine. You win. I'll bring it next time. Oh, it's getting late. I guess I better go. I've got homework.
No, that's the grown project. That's the group project voice. Bird guy again? What's his name? Nerdly?
It's, Budley. It's not that bad, Dad.
I'll kick his ass. Appreciate somebody who will kick Birdie's ass for a living.
Dad, you're supposed to not even get up.
Bring him by the window. I'll throw something at him.
Goodbye, Dad. Goodbye, honey. Oh, hi, Chris.
Well, jingle my Christmas came early. Alright, Chris. Let's give it the straight shot. Why are you here? Did your mom make you come here? Really? I'm gonna pull out, Chris. I'm proud of you.
Oh, that wasn't too long ago. You were the creepy kid next door.
Yeah, you're the creepy kid right in front of me. Okay, seriously. You gonna chat or something? So, why am I in here? Well, I found some crap, so it's just some tests. Yeah, it's no big deal. Nothing a holiday can't handle. Yeah, here, no Jeff. Back to, I don't know, yelling at you for getting tangled in our light display. Special feature is sunsetting. That Angel Noel dress made it. Like trying to be now. Oh right, you and Azzy trying to make one too. You wasted the whole time making huge wings for it. What's your name? Happy holiday. Hey Chris, forgot my name or something? She's a sweetheart, isn't she, Chris? For my eyes are getting blurry. Smart kid, sweet, couldn't ask for a better daughter. I just wish she wasn't so defenseless. Scary movie, bugs, Santa Claus, everything scares her. After she freezes like a deer in headlights, remember she seemed to be afraid of humans under the bed. Chris, it was not nice of you to hide under there, by the way. Hey! Anyways, now what's going on with me? Just that, in the meantime, I can't be there to protect her. Keep an eye on her, okay? I will. I'm not gonna bully her into genocide. Possibly. We'll see. In the store and station. Someone's coming up to the window. No! They just closed the blinds. Naxablook, let my ass in. Let me in, Naxablook. It's locked. Yeah, because nothing screams suspicious like a fucking bat. God damn it, I'm still so mad they fucking kill off her. Hey, short stuff. I should possibly need to talk to the mayor. Your alliance too low? Ate too much candy? Lost your frisbee in the wash? Hey, short stuff. That's what cops are for.
Oh, Chris, you're okay? I was really worried when you didn't come back. Where did you go? Did you skip class? Well, don't worry about it. I'm a cool teacher, you know? You're not in trouble. Well, let me know if you need anything.
Is that a thing cat? It's a saucer of milk. Are you feeding cats? I appreciate it. Knock knock?
Huh? That sounds like the knock of a beginner.
Come back when you've gotten better at knocking. I love some of these doors. Is that a bunny?
Oh, are you the human that lives at the top of town? My mom told me about you. Does it hurt to be made of blood?
No response, but the distance travels little bones.
Yo, let me see your brother.
Hey, look who's walking around. How are you, kid? Yeah, it's really nice, isn't it? Especially considering I've never met you before. Name's Sans. Sans Skeleton. I'm new in town. What's up? Just moved here, so hardly know anyone. Why? Got anyone I should know better? Whoa there, Tiger. You can't just jump straight into friendship. It takes time. Alright, that's enough time. Take this. Call whenever you feel like it. You got Santa's number. What's up? We just moved here, so I hardly know anyone. Your mother? Huh? Too late. I already befriended your mom last night. She's great. I'm just ordered by chocolate kisses. So she's got a lock the door to stop you from eating them. You sound like a fun kid, huh? Hey, yo, can I meet your brother? What's up? Behind me? Yeah, that's a grocery store. Unfortunately, it's closed. But I pay him. I really wanted to buy some milk. So why don't I complain to the guy who runs it? Oh, you got something better to do? Me too. Anyways, staying here doing nothing. Hey, bud. Hey, bud, is it around? Need some help with something. I need help with something. Great if you come over. I live just next door, you know? Wow. You were deliberating for a while. Jeez, what's wrong? Don't want to hang out with the stranger? Well, yes, I shouldn't complain. Huh? What are you gonna be doing? Oh, I'm not gonna be there. That's weird. It's gonna be you and my little brother. He needs some friends. Thank you for hanging out with him. See ya. I feel so bad.
Hey there, haven't seen you in a while, hon. I remember back at Sundays after service, you and your family would be in order special. Of course, the things happened, and then y'all stopped coming together. It's Sunday, you and your brother still come in. Your hot chocolate, and you two sit down at the table in the corner.
Draw the shapes in the window with your breath. You must really miss him. Here, how about this? Got hot chocolate. On the house, hun. The entry is locked. No one's inside. Seems like all the employees are outside in costumes. Knock, knock, knock. Oh, Snowy. What I tell you about knocking on doors so handy? Don't do it. It's really gonna hurt your face. You don't have arms, you know. Yes, because the lore in this game makes me fucking laugh.
I'm afraid no one's home right now, darling. Now why don't you prance on home? I'm telling you, they're not home right now. You just wanted to talk to me. My apologies, beautiful. I'm afraid I'm a bit of a nobody.
True. It's a metal picnic. Cigarette butts lay on the ground underneath it. Stick your finger in the holes in the table. Stick finger. Fingers don't fit through. Try from below. You're gonna become covered in cobwebs.
Oh, is someone there? Just a moment. I've almost finished watering these flowers. Here we are. Howdy, how can I... Hi! Oh, Chris.
Way to smother the poor kid.
I'm sorry. I forgot if you didn't... You don't like hugs like that. Well, now, make yourself at home, Chris. You can help yourself to anything you like. Oh, he still doesn't have a red one. Yes, these flowers are still kicking. Quite hard to take care of them in this climate. It's a small TV on top or some Spiro comics. It's a rusty fridge with pictures on it. Oh, Chris, you hungry? Help yourself to anything you want. A photo of your mother and father on their wedding day. She's holding a bouquet of 7 flowers. A reindeer-looking monster stands near and attacks. They all look happy. Oh. Say, Chris, I was thinking, perhaps when Aldo comes home, and I'll go to dinner just like old times. My treat. Doesn't that sound yummy?
There's still money for the cash register. It's a cash register. There's not much change inside. Damn it!
Oh, Chris, before you go.
Here, for your mother. Our secret. You got a bouquet of flowers. Have a great day. I don't think I've ever given her the flowers. I'm not talking to you.
Oh, hi, Chris. Did you need help with your homework again? I know you were having trouble last time, so, I actually got a few things ready for you in case. Wait, sorry. I can't right now. I got my house key again, and, I'm sorry, Chris. I'll have to help you later. That's okay. See you at school. Chris, do you want to talk about something? Susie, that's right. Who is Susie? When you didn't come back from class, I was worried, but everything turned out okay, I think. Chris, can I ask you something if that's okay? Susie, I'm kind of curious what she's like, you know? I mean, who doesn't wonder about her? She never talks to anyone. So, Chris, can you tell me about her? If that's okay?
You just talk. Terrible.
She's nice. What? She's a nice person. Really? Like, honestly, truly? I mean, that's what I was hoping, but wait, this isn't another trick, is it, Chris? Like when you put ketchup on your arm and told me it was blood? Really? I said blood, so weird. No. Gosh, back to you. What if I die? You're painting a funeral, Chris. Though, honestly, she's nice. I might die too.
Me paying for people's funerals? That's no surprise.
I think the special. Do you have anything edible, Glitter?
It doesn't look like treasure. Look at my regular body. You wonder what kind of secrets I hold. My secret is put all my leftover pancakes in the shed. Ice and drink. I will like ice to be drink.
Chris, what a pleasant surprise to see you here, and on a school day. There must be a reason that you come here at such a time. Father Evan employ you. If anything weighing on your mind, please speak.
Fruit juice.
Want some of your sick fruit? You should come to our service. Sounds a bit thinner since your brother went away. Chris, it would be wonderful if you would sing with us. That's what I say at any event, instead of just trying to drink the fruit juice.
No. Fruit juice. Fruit juice. Fruit juice.
What's your mom's name? Welcome home, honey. Did you have fun with your friends today? By the way, just finished baking a pie. If you go to bed, it'll be cool by the time we go. Don't eat it all at once, right?
Hey,
Chris, what is it, honey? Oh, Chris, flowers? For your mother. How sweet.
these are from him, aren't they not?
But worry not, Chris. I will find some place for them.
It's still cooling. No, let me be mean. Let me steal some.
It's only you.
No, the fuck it ain't. No, the fuck it's not. There are many books. Tales of Snails, the story. You go to bed. This chapter adventure will end. Will you go to bed? Yes. You decided to go to bed. Oh, can't wait to have to throw my own heart out. Hey, friend. I think the first time I played this, this scared the shit out of me. Oh, look, it's the card, Kenny. I make that joke every fucking time I play this. That Chris is a fucking Scar Kitty and I will die on that hill.
God fucking damn it, I don't have anything. Thank you for the hydrate. I don't think I just have water right now.
That's a knife! That's a Kara face! Good game. Such a good game. I'm so mad I went too fucking far.
When the light is running low and the shadows start to
Tell me, Jay.
grow, and the places that you know seem like fantasy, there's a light inside your soul that's still shining in the cold, with the truth, the promise in our hearts. Don't
Damn.
forget, I'm with you in the dark.
Alright, no one's live there. Anyone live in here? No, just me, myself, and I. Cool. Oh, where's the casino? There it is. Anyone here live? No. Why? Do all my friends? Why is it the Ho! Pause! We're not ending it! I can go kick the shit out of someone real quick. I got him. Oh, I found the way out of here. Cool. Everyone pause, everyone shut up. This is what we're doing. It's a door. Where will you go? Field. We're here for a little bit longer. I'm so sorry, I know you want to go to bed.
No, it's fine.
Cool. Gotta go very quick. Hey, friend. What's up with the strange person? What are you talking about? A prisoner with an old manor. Oh, you couldn't possibly be talking about him. I see. After all the trouble I went through locking him up, want to release him. Now you mention it. It could be troublesome if he's left alone. Yes, perhaps it would be better if you heroes dealt with him now. After all, it's not like it ever happened with Matter in the end. Perhaps a little chaos might be fun. So then take this. Broken key A. Y'all want to go? I have never done this fight. I need to be sit and get someone to fix them. I'll give you a hint. Walk to where the stairs don't shine. Anyways, if it's a key, come back and tell me. Good luck. Called Sluck. That was my click curse. See you again or not. Oh fuck, where's the It was by the bake sale, right? Hey friends, I got keys. Fix item. Huh? What key is seething with energy? You must let me fix it. Huh? Let me feel my broken key parts. Broken key parts became a prisoner key. This key has a terrible energy coming from it. Please understand that I'm only fixing it so that you will never have to use it. Stares deadpan into my non-existent camera. If you take the evil right, I get a fucking knife. It's a door. Where will you go? I'm not here. Don't worry about it. Where will you ride the elevator to? Let's see how this fight goes. I have not done this fight. Alright. Friend, I got the key.
Master-chan, hi, welcome. I'm glad that you're new. Welcome, you're about to witness me do a fight. Then the key. A marvelous fun is about to break free. Why don't you let yourself be outside?
Use the key. If you put the door key in front of the door. The door key is created. Welcome to the stream. How are you? I'm new but old. Oh god. I left out in the game. Shit. Oh, hello. Oh god, you are very old.
New visitors, can we play? Then after you, I can play with everyone else.
Yeah, it'll be fun. Oh god, not the cryptid bullshit. Remember the game. Oh, that's a knife!
Your HP drops to 0, you lose!
So that's the kind of game you want to play, huh? Then I gotta warn you. You're dealing with a couple of sharks. Shark's the shark!
I wouldn't have it any other way! No, let the game begin!
Rant. Chaos begin. Shit. World's a fantasy. Oh, hell no. Shit. The heck goes out to all this? Oh god. What the? Oh. Oh shit. Oh, of course. He down. Oh, cool. I have that. Good to know. God damn it! Oh my god. Oh shit! Why are we down? Fuck me. I don't want to be here no more. I don't want to be here! Help. 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 That's not enough. I know you can. Oh. Oh. Oh no. Read. Shit. Shit. Yeah. No, I'm not having fun. I don't want to be here. perk. Like, half my friends are.
I can do anything.
Oh my god. Son of a bitch! Oh my god. No. Oh. Oh, yeah, we're down. That is the first time I've died. It appears you have reached an end. Will you try again? Then the future is in your... First time I've ever died in this fucking game. Doing it again. We're doing it again. I have enough determination. Now, I break the pacifist if I kill this man. He's a secret boss. Will it affect it if I just murder him? I mean, if you got a prime, it works.
Chaos, chaos.
Oh yes, this man's easiest fucking attack. That I'm somehow sucking. Random chaos. Spent out, got slightly more tired, and felt at ease, but just dropped. Shit. Oh, fuck me! Is he down again? Fuck me. Okay, Chris, quickly shove this down your throat. Oh, I hate this one. Oh, Rousey's dead. Son of a bitch! Oh no! Not again.
Chaos, metamorphosis.
Oh, I hate this one. Son of a bitch. Oh my god! We're gonna be here for a while. Will you persist? Yes. Just please don't fucking throw the scythes at me and we'll be fine. Yada 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 yada. So in other words, I'm just gonna keep this bitch alive for as long as I can. I kind of forgot defense a fucking thing in this. The weekend. Okay. He's weakened. That's all I need. Chris, shove this down your throat. Huh? Oh. Oh, we're in trouble. Holy shit, what the fuck?
Metamorphosis.
Oh, fuck. Okay, figured out how to do that one. Shit. Welcome back, Chris. Oh, Rouse is... Okay. This one's fine. This one's fine. This one's fine. This one's fine. This one's not fine. Shit. No, I'm not having fun. I don't want to be here. Holy shit, who got downed? Chris did. Of course he did. Shit.
I can do anything.
It's fine. Shit. Hey, welcome back to the Land of the Living. Oh, we're dead. Damn it! I hate spite. I don't want to be here no more. I have enough fucking spite. I don't want to be here no more. I hate you with every fiber in my being. If I kill him, this is probably gonna be my most used save file.
Chaos.
Why is she?
Metamorphosis.
I hate it here. I fucking hate it here. I hate him. I'm gonna kill him. Fuck me being pacifist, I'm killing him. What happens if I kill him? Quick search. Oh, it's the hardest. Definitely don't know. Okay, it doesn't matter. We're killing him. The key created a door. We're stabbing him. I've chosen violence.
Chaos.
Shit. getting more tired. Shit. Defend. Susie. Okay, those. I don't want to be here.
Metamorphosis.
Son of a bitch. I hate this one. Why is she doing it again? Kill me now.
I can do anything.
I hate this fight. I don't want to be here. It's 10:30. Oh no, we're stabbing him now. Oh.
Chaos, chaos.
Ow. Hey, let's not have Chris go down, please. Fuck me. And he's down again, because of course he is.
Metamorphosis. Chaos, chaos.
Shit. No, god damn it, leave him alone. I was about to say this one's easy. I spoke too soon. I missed, but it's fine.
Do anything.
It's fine.
I can do anything.
Damn it. Okay, it's fine. It's not fine. I'm gonna kill him. Will you persist? Yes, but not right now. Okay. The game's like, you've been here for how long? And we're not gonna talk about that. I'm gonna stab him. I'm gonna stab this man one way or another. If I do it off stream, I do it off stream. Hey Twitch, you wanna load? I don't care how many times I die, this will become my most used save file. Alright, none of my friends are online, but another someone I have open. So yeah, I will be live tomorrow. I don't know what the hell I'll be doing tomorrow, but it's fine. We gotta love Twitch analytics. Alright, have fun.